we're here for is a little bit of magic on the system. And we're going to go and run through a simple example of taking all the tools that we've put together in the last day and a half, that we've talked about, and use them to go to do a live application in approximately 30 minutes. Okay? So basically, if you ask questions, please keep them short. Otherwise, I'll never make the 30 minutes. Okay? So the goal of the presentation, we're trying to take a real live situation where you're working in your office, companies come back and said, hey, we've just bought a new product line. We need to put it up on the web so our salesmen out in the field can go and get access to the product line, see what the product codes happen to be, get some pricing, and get some price lists out. So basically what you've got is we've got a CSV file that the marketing department or the purchasing department has actually just provided us of the new products that we've actually got. So we're going to start from that. We're going to go and use the CSV file import. Then we're going to use Nomads to generate our screens. We use Report Writer to produce our report or our print list. We're going to add security onto the system, and we do a little bit of charting. We're going to try and put all the little pieces together in a grand total of 30 minutes on the whole system. With the net result, we'll provide a secured online access to a new product master file so the sales reps know what the heck the company is now selling. Okay? And that's all we have to start with is this CSV file on the system. Oh, and the run rule basis is that this has to be done in 30 minutes because the boss is coming. And in actual fact, in our particular case, in 30 minutes, the coffee is coming. So it's not a whole heck of a lot of difference than real life in this case. Okay, so we're going to start up the thing. And we'll hit enable. And there you go. Okay, so we'll start up with. I'm going to start out with a blank directory on this case. Okay, so we make a directory on the system. We're going to change to that directory. Now, the only thing we do know that we have here is we have this product called CSV. So we're just going to copy that into our directory to get started with. And this is what the file actually looks like. So we're going to take a look at the file. As you can see, it's just a plain old CSV file. Has all the code names, the numbers, some sales costs, and whatnot. And so we're going to start from that. And from here, we're going to go through and take a look and run Nomads to actually go and clean up the data or load the data into the system. So we'll use the Nomads utility for the CSV file import. I may sit down a little bit for some of these because it's easier to type in many cases. And we'll go pull that file, analyze it. And there's the data file there. And we're going to go through. And one thing I noticed off the bat, that probably should be a 40-character description. The price is there, quantity on hand, year-to-date sales. But these actually on the price should be a currency. As should my year-to-date sales, which in this case really should be 0. But in this example, we're going to actually give some starting input data. Maybe we bought a company instead. And so we'll import the file. And that brings the file into the PX Plus database. Move this down a bit, move this down a bit so we have a little more room on here. And we can actually take a look if you want that actually brought in. We always want to go and check that actually brought in our data file. Okay? So we started off with bringing in the data file here. Okay? So we started with that. Let's go through and we're going to create a little query program to run against this application here. So we'll come in here. We'll go and open a new library up here. We'll just simply call it demo, since we're doing demo. Now, you'd probably use a better name than that, but that probably isn't going to make much difference. So we'll start off with making the product query as the name of the thing, and it's just going to be a query. Standard query applies. We'll look up the table. Should be in our data dictionary because we actually asked for it. So there's that. And that's OK. And we'll just take all the code fields. So if we test that, we can now see that we have all the data values that we brought in from the product master file. So we're good to go, I think. We've at least got the data in, so that's at least getting a start here. Okay. Now, the one thing I will probably come in and do, is since I've now got a query, I might as well go and make my life a little simpler. So we'll call back up the product file description, hit the elements. And there's our product code, string, length, and whatnot. I'm going to go and just tell it that I have a query program here. That makes my life a little simpler later on. And it should be, oh, pardon? Did I hit cancel? There you go. I'm glad somebody actually you do these things. Yeah, you're right. Well, I'll have to redo it. See there, I've actually lost some time already. See, people get me all flustered because I know that I'm being timed. There you go. That much better, right? Oh, I'm leaning on a keyboard. That's even worse. I should have had time to put a mouse up here, but I didn't get a chance to do that. So I'm just going to have to wing it. All right. So we've added our query file to the system. And we'll close that off. Okay, so now we've got a query on the system. So I want to go and I'll use the file maintenance system on it to actually go and put the products code onto the system. And, I wish I had my notes. I'm going to actually take a pause here, because I actually have some notes, and if I don't type it the right way, I'll remember it. I'll not remember it later. I know. I know the clock's still going. These were my own little sheets that would help me to remember what I was supposed to go through. So anyway, because I wanted to make sure to turn it on to be called products. And we'll make that as a file maintenance on the system. And the data dictionary here is going to be products. Okay, and we'll just let it go and do its standard setup for it. So there's my standard product code all ready to go. We've now got my file maintenance system basically up and running on the system. Now, one of the things I will probably do here, just because I might also want to run this under Windows, I'm just going to change, because I always do this on new libraries. I always come in here, and I always just make these colors set up so they look standardized. Okay. So now I have a nice screen there. There's my actual product code screen. Okay. So that's that. So I've got my query all going in. I've got my product codes all running and whatnot. So now we want to go and do our price list system. We have a price list we want to come up with. And I'm going to take advantage of one of those nice little things that Jane showed you about, which is the report wizard. So let's start off a report. And I'm going to have to call it price list. For our new products, we'll pick up the table. We'll find out the product code. Okay. And on the price list is price code description. We really don't want the price list, in case it gets into somebody's hands. You really don't want to have the quantity on hand. That's meaningless on a price list. Don't want the year-to-date sales. Don't want the standard costing. So we'll do that, all standard stuff across the board. The only fun part is I'll tell it I want it to be tabular, so it can do all this stuff for me. And I don't want to send it to a printer. I want to be able to view it. And so this is what it's ultimately going to look like. So there's my price list. So I'll finish that up. And I'll just save that off. Yeah, we'll call that price list.pvr. Okay, so we've saved that onto the system. So now we've got a price list onto the system. So let's add that into the screen. Oops. Let's add that into the screen now. I've got my panel here. And I'm just going to put a button down here. And onto that button, we will go in and we'll make it a nice little printer for something fancy. We want it to look like a web-like button so it just doesn't have a frame and all that stuff. And then on the logic, and this is why I need my notes, although in actual fact I actually cheated. This is where I did cheat because I don't do this often enough personally, but I could have typed that in, but it's basically star report, run report, run call, and the name of the price list that we were running. And I did put that in the clipboard, I will admit to that. Okay. So we've done that, saved that off. quits. That gets that file all done. So now I've got my screen ready to go. And we need to put security in on the system. So for the security side, we've got to solve that. We'll just use the standard system security. So we'll go off and make classifications, our standard classifications file. And please acknowledge the fact that it was a yes. And we'll go in and make the new user on this system to be John. And it's, oh, sorry, this is John Smith. This is not, sorry. This is going to be a web query. And it's web query. And we'll record that. This is the class. So I've made a type of class for people and that I want to have people use. And I want users in here. I have to create this as a user ID. And so here's where I'll pick John. And it will be doesn't create. I'll make it John Smith. And I want him to have web query information associated with him. And we'll write that user out there. So John's been updated. So that's all good. So now I've got a user ID on the system by using the security system. Okay. Now, by the way, one of the things happens is when you run the security system the first time through, it actually sets up the security. So you wouldn't normally have to do this, but I'm going to go and put in the flag in there that says clear off the security on the system. So now I got to put security on the screen. So we're going to put the security on the screen. What we want to do is on the security is make sure the guy doesn't have the write and delete buttons and lock all the other ones. So we'll just call up the screen here again. Make it a little more secure on this screen. Here's our test. Here's our little, if I test it, you can see right now, it's all nice and good to go, but I'm going to go and modify that. I'm going to take this button here. I wish I had a mouse. And I'll put the properties on here. Security. And we'll just say admin gets full access. And that basically what that means is if admin gets full access and web query gets no access, then those buttons don't appear for those people. And this button here, properties, security, he gets full, web gets view. What view does is basically means that he can see the data, but he can't actually touch the data. So that'll be full access, and that's a view-only access. Well, so security, he gets full, he only gets view. Hopefully I don't make mistakes here, but if I do, I can come back and fix it. I've got lots of time. Coffee's going to come in a little later. Okay, and we do the last one here. Again, security here. Full. View only. Okay. So now if I test this screen, it's going to ask me to sign on. And my user ID was John. And by default, it starts the password off with the same user ID. First time you ever create a user ID on the security system, it uses the username as the password. So I'm going to change this to Smith so that it's something that I can remember. So we'll update that. I have web query. You'll now notice that I do not actually have anything in there that I can really go and modify. My fields are locked. I don't have the write statements. I don't have the delete statements. But I still have the ability to go and produce my price list. So there's my basic application ready to go. Okay. So I'll save that work. We'll exit out of here. And we'll exit back from here. So I've done security. Well, actually, that was actually just showing me. I just did that manually there. So now let's go and set up iNomads on this system. So we'll run the administrator. And we're going to start off setting the transaction. And I will make the transaction code, where I say that I would like to make the transaction code so I can make it easy for myself. Oh, we'll call the transaction prod. And the screen name is, the screen name is products. Products, P-R-O-D-U-C-T-S. And the panel is in demo.en. And the name is star, P-L-U-S slash, or not star plus, it's in, yeah, that's just our demo slash live slash global. That's where I've been working from. Okay. What's that? Oh, thank you. At least somebody's paying attention back there. See? This is why I count on Jane. Okay, so we have that all set up on the system. So now let's go off and we'll start up the web server. So I'll invoke the web server. So the web server is up and running now. I'll just put him down minimized. That was just to invoke the web server so he would start up. Now let's see, I should be able to go and run my application. It's going to force me to sign in. And the name was John and the password was Smith. There. We now have an online website, file looking up, and price list. 13 minutes, 40 seconds. Hey, pretty cool. All right. But you know what? I got lots of time. The coffee's still cold out there. Okay? So there's your basic website up and running. You know, it's pretty tacky looking, so you probably want to go and make it a little nicer looking. So I got lots of time. I got 16 minutes, which is amazing considering I did it with the mouse pad as opposed to actually a mouse. So let's go and actually pretty this up a little bit. We're going to go and make a nice little corporate logo template, since our company name is Global Corporation. So we'll go and make a template on this. And so we'll go and do that, and we'll start off with, and I will make a new template. And the template that I'm going to have is going to look kind of like, well, we'll kind of have it look like this here. And we'll call it Global. And we'll just create that template. So now I have a template all ready to go. So I've started off the template, but before I do that, I guess I better need some stuff for it. So one of the things I have on this system is I have a file up here called logo, which we're going to take. And, you know, I mean, I could spend a whole half an hour just trying to design a logo. We did take a while to design that one. But we're going to assume if you're working for a company, somewhere on the company's website or somewhere in the files, they will actually be able to show you what their corporate logo looks like. So I have the corporate logo. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to issue a copy of the corporate logo into my Star Plus. I know it's templates global logo.jpg. So I just copy that over to my template file for my global logo. Okay. Now, the other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to make it so that, I don't know if you've seen it even on our screen or on a lot of web screens, they tend to have a gradient fill. They sort of start from a darker to a lighter color, or they have a gradient somewhere on the actual screen to try and give it a 3D image effect. Well, there's a neat trick you can actually do with PX Plus, and this is it here. Basically, I'm going to open up a bitmap, and I'm going to say it's 100 dots to the inch, and the width is 1/4 of an inch, and the length is 2 inches. So if you actually want to work that out, that will be about a 25 pixel by 200 pixel bitmap on the system. And I will print to that with the pen and a fill and then a rectangle and save that off to a file called blend, close. And what that gives me is that. Okay, really cool, because I basically said I wanted the bitmap. I started with that great pink color, and I ended with a white color, and I told it to blend. Just with the standard rectangle commands, strictly wrote it out, did a save of the JPEG, and presto, I've now got my little JPEG already set up and ready to go. Okay? So I have that. We'll copy that over to the directory. And now I'm going to go in here, and let's start doing a little bit of playing around with the template definition to use those. So let's go in here. We'll call up my global template that I had a few minutes ago that I was working on. I'm going to customize that global template. And let's just say here, for example, our background page color, I actually personally prefer white. And my panel header, the panel background is also going to be white. But I'm going to modify it a little bit. I'm going to put a different background on my panel. And what I'm going to do with my panel is I'm going to have it have an edge of a groove, the border on the groove. I'm going to say it's about 2 pixels. I'm going to say that it's, and I'll pick a color here. I just happen to have a color. It really doesn't matter. Actually, 333 is as good as any. It's just a dark gray. And the edge is rounded, and I want it to be shadowed. So I want it to kind of look like this, but I want it to actually to have a border on the panel. So I'm going to apply that. Then I'm going to go and change what I want on the caption. I want the caption lines, which is the line up here on the top of all the panels. And I'm going to say I want that to be Tahoma, because that's our company's decision is that's what we have as our thing. And I'll make it a bold Tahoma, just so I know that. And we'll go through. I'll leave it as a standard color, standard size in there. No, it's Tahoma with it. Yeah, you know, that's the Canadian spelling. See, you're as good as Jane. You actually picked me up on that. Actually, I'm going to make it a fairly large one. I'm going to make it 17, and I'm also going to make that white. And then the color for the background, that's the gray image that you have up here. We'll just pick another color out here, and I just say 3D, 3D, 3D. I could actually go and click it up. But hopefully, someone would tell you up front, what do you want the panels to actually be, what your corporate logos kind of look like. You can also go and call a page up yourself and look and see what somebody who knew what they were doing was doing. So here's my basic layout here. The top panel up here, its background is 333. For lack of something clever, it's going to be a height of 150 pixels across the top. That's how high that first top section of my layout of my pages are going to be. And down in here, we're going to say I want to put an image. I have to go and select the image. I want to put an image. And in here, I want the image to be /templates /global /logo.jpg. So that's the image I want to put in my top system. I don't really care about the width. I really don't care about the height. I would like it to be in the middle. I would like it to be on the left-hand side horizontally. And I want it in just a little bit. So this is an adjustment. I'm just going to move it in just a bit. So I'll put it in 10 pixels here. So I made that 10 pixels in that particular field. The horizontal adjustment was 10. You'll notice the column headers change as I go in here. And then here I'm going to put some text. And I'm going to say I want it to be Global Industries. Global Industries. And again, we'd like our font to be Tahoma. And I want it to be 30 on there. And I want it to be white. Again, I want it on the middle. And again, I want it on the left. But in this case, I want it to be indented because I know that I'll leave it about 225 pixels in on here. So there's my layout for what my screen is going to be. So that would give me the basics on the screen. Okay. The other thing I would like to do is I'd like to use the blending on this panel here. That's the panel that the actual screen's going to appear on. So on that one here, I don't care. I've already set that the background's going to be white on here. But what I'm going to do is I want to put in here /templates. I want to say it's global again. And it's blend.jpg. And I want it to repeat across. And it's going to just be on this. Oh, it doesn't matter. Center top. Doesn't really matter where it happens to be. I will apply that one as well. Okay. So that takes care of that panel. If I close this out, and I close that out. Oh, one thing I want to do now, I have that product code in here. So let's take products, and the template is going to be global. So we'll write that off. We've done that there. I close off. I close this off. So now when I actually come in here, okay, oops, let me make it so I can go and just select it. It makes my life a little easier. If you're coming in tomorrow, you'll understand what I just did there. It just makes my life that much simpler. All right, now I can actually go and run it. And that's what it should look like. Okay, so now it makes it look a lot cleaner. We have a gray, we have our global industry text, we have our logo up across the top, we have our user ID signing up, John, and oops, and then I can do Smith as his password, and we just hit log in there. So there's your screen with your panel and your round. So now we're up to what, 22 minutes. We basically got the website up. We've got it looking like a corporate website. We've got our price list on the system. And everything else is all in there, up and running onto the system. Okay? So that's your basic information. Now the other thing that would be kind of handy over here is there's my screen that has my query and all the information there. So let's go and see if we can do some more nice functionality on here. And to do that, I'm actually just going to go back on here. And here we have this query again. But let me go into, whoops, I don't need to do this. Close that off. All right. what I want to actually go in to do is I'm going to do nomads over here. Call up my library. All right. And just there's my products there, and I can hit test. One of the things I can actually do here is say, okay, here is my query that we're running on the system. I can go in here and I can say I want to define a chart. Now, if you happen to look at those numbers that were on the screen, the last 2 digits of the product code happen to be the color, black, stainless steel, et cetera, et cetera. Now, it could be someplace else, could be a field on the file. But I want to design a new chart, and it's sales by color, or by finish. Maybe by finish is a better way, because stainless steel is really a finish. And it's going to be a pie chart, and it's sales by finish. And the value we want to have is the year-to-date sales, and we want to have the total up here. We're going to sum all the total sales by year-to-date sales. And I'm going to take the information out of the product code, and I'm actually going to take the last 2 digits out of the product code. So I just highlighted and said apply. Next, I don't need to do any data filters in it, and I'm also tell it to auto-update. Not that it really matters in this case. And that's what it looks like. So there's my sales by product finish. That's all done. Finish this all out. Close this down. Oh, I'm leaning on the dash keys. What it was complaining about there. Yeah. Keyboards aren't the easiest thing at the time. Call up the transaction again. Log in. Now I've got this. I can actually go in here and I can say right-click on here and I can say show my chart, and there we go. There's your sales by product finish. And I've done this in 25 minutes, 11 seconds so far. Pretty cool, huh? So that just then gives you an idea what some of those tools allow you to go and do. But you know, coffee's still not here. Yeah, still got 5 minutes, right?
One question.
Yes.
On the setup for iNomads, there was an option for security.
Yes.
Is that in
I basically, because the panel has security, the system enforces that when it goes to the panel. You can actually tick in the transaction that it asks for security. It'll do it, therefore, before it gets in. What it is it's when you connect, whether we force security, or the moment that we get to a point on the system that requires security, where do we ask? You could actually have a menuing system, for example, of your own that you didn't care, and then when they selected something off of one of those entries, then you ask for security. So it's just a matter of where you want the security to be done. Okay? So let's add some more stuff. So we got some sales stats, we have some invoices, we have some invoice lines, we have some customers, and we're going to go and import these particular files here. I'm just going to do this pretty quick. And we're just going to import the customer file. And we're just going to import that again in here. If I take a look at here, I've got a few things in here. Year-to-date sales, we'll make that a currency. I could and probably should fix the address lines, but you know, time is of the essence, so we're not going to bother with that. What's that? Yeah, credit limit should probably have, well, it should probably have a couple of decimal points in there. Oh, maybe not. It's hard to say, you know. So you can fix that up. I would normally fix it up, but I'm just using this to get some data in. I'm not really using this to maintain my dictionary. So we'll insert the customer files. We'll insert the lines. That's a bigger file. And in this case here, we have the price that we sold, which is there, and the quantity is there. Again, you could have, notice here it picked the item, invoice number, and the line number. It figured those out with the keys. That's the beauty of that particular system. And then it had the product codes, and it knows those are uppercase intent. That's one of the advantages of this. Okay, come on. Thank you. Oh, you know, I'm leaning on the keyboard. That's why. I'm sitting here like, why is that not working? I'm leaning on the minus key over here. Like, that's kind of odd. Didn't have that trouble when I did it the last time. So there's the item lines file there. Okay. So that's all done, and we'll do the other one here too, CSV file import, and we'll just take the invoices next. Analyze. These are some fairly large files, and to be honest with you, I think I'm not even going to bother with that one. Sales reps, payment type, tax, amount paid. Ooh, I don't think I got the right file there. Everything was one. I think I must have the wrong, either I've got the wrong file, or if I've got the wrong file. Invoices. No. Brian, we have a little issue with your file out here. Pardon? I don't know. It could be.
Maybe an ID10T too.
I'm going to guess that that's the problem, because I saw that problem. I may have your older one that's had problems with blank lines at the end of the file. I think I may have the version from before that. That looks much better, right? There you go. All the things now look much better. So there's your amount, and there's a currency. And tax the currency, and so forth. So we'll just import that one as well. So there's that file. All ready to go. So I've got those files in on the system. And now I'm going to go through and I'm going to make a query, and I'm also going to put an alternate key on these files. So we'll just go in here, maintenance. We now have all these files in here. But on this particular one here, the invoice lines, I'm just going to make an alternate key on it that basically goes out and picks it up based on the product code and then by the invoice line number, whatever. Not that it really matters. And we'll just convert that. It loads it all up. I don't really think I need the backup on that. Okay. So that's all taken care of there. Oh, I'd already taken care of that. I took care of the invoice lines file. Now I'm going to make a little query, a smart list box based on product sales. So I'm going to make a little thing called prod sales, a query. Oops, sales. And we're just going to make it a query, standard query. And let's just see what we can do here. I'm going to start this based on the invoice line file. And in this case, though, I'm going to make it by product code. So we've done that. Yeah, alternate key of product code. And what we're going to do is we are going to add some file links. I'm going to link that into the invoice file based upon the invoice number. So we'll apply that one. Oops, okay. Close that. So now I have the invoice files here based on invoice number, and I have the first one, which is the invoice line based on invoice number. I'll leave that up. Oops. I'll leave that one open, and then I'll add another file link that goes off to the customer code. And it ties together from the invoice based also on the client ID. Okay, so we can close that off. Then in terms of data, what we want is we probably want in here an invoice number. We probably want the client ID, and you probably will want something classy like what the client name happens to be. And then maybe off of the invoice, we may actually want to say the amount on the invoice. Actually, no, it would be on the invoice lines, wouldn't it be? You'd probably want the price and the description. Okay, and we might want to even go and add a formula in here, which is extension. Hopefully you'll type better than I will, which is price times ITEMQTY. And the format is something exciting like that. No, because it's based on the product. So if I test this now, it'll take a moment to go through the file, but it will give me back all the information in here. Oops. I think I must have typed the client information incorrectly in there, or the client name didn't come in right. Did I not have the client name? Oh, should have picked the client name up. Okay. Yeah. We'll take a look at that. I've probably just got something that I loaded up. I don't have time to really look at it. But basically what you would do is you would set that up on the system. Then I would take the product sale. Oops, not the product sales. Then I'd take my product screen here. Stretch that down to the bottom. Take these. Take those. Move them down to there. Take a list box in here. Throw it in here. Tell it the list view. Tell it the report. Tell it's an auto load. Tell it the trigger is on the product code. Okay, and the product code and tell it what query it is that it's actually tied to, which is the product sales query. Save that, test that, go to the next product, and there's the lookup. I'm not certain why the client number is not set up right, but I'm sure I can figure that one out without too much trouble. So therefore, now you have that particular screen in there. If you want, you can make the screen resizable, so I can put the attributes in here to make it a maximize, make it so it's resizable. Test, and go from there. Oops, resize. I just said, you know what I did? Pardon? Oh yeah, I didn't say what I wanted. I didn't say the controls were resizable. So I said it. Do it that way. That's not as pretty, but it does give an idea of what it can do. Okay. I would actually normally have done it customized if I had more time. Okay. So that's the whole system there, running up and on the system. So now I can go back over here. Whoops, forgot to save that. Save the work, yes. Now if I go back in here and run it, come on, up. You know, there we go. And it actually brings up the same information. Okay. So literally, whoops, you know, and I was wondering why that was falling off. But anyway, so that gives you an idea of how the actual application is and what you can do in effectively 30 minutes, start to finish, laying a template out, laying a screen out, using all the various tools on the system. And you could keep on going from there and whatnot. I could actually go and put another chart on that to say that bring the chart up based upon that particular sales, based on the month, and so on and so forth. Again, all depends on when the coffee would show up. Okay? So does that give you a good idea what? Okay. So that's kind of putting it all together, and shows you what you can do with the tools that we've introduced. And again, if you come back and you're here tomorrow with iNomads, we'll show you how to do a little bit more on that and add more menus and make that fancy.